Welcome to Parenting Pioneers, the podcast where we journey through the vibrant communities of urban life, discovering the opportunities and challenges that await today's working parents. In a world that's changing faster than ever, how do we raise resilient, curious, and empowered kids? So whether you're navigating the digital playground, seeking local adventures, or striving for that ever-elusive work-life harmony, we're here to guide, inspire, and connect. I'm your host, David Watkins, and together we'll explore stories, strategies, and talk with experts that empower us to thrive in the parenting landscape. So parents, pioneers, let's find our way. We want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Plan My Kids. As busy parents, we all know the stress of trying to plan and organize activities for our kids. That's where Plan My Kids comes in. They make planning and attending kids' activities easy, offering personalized programs tailored to your family's interests and needs. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with planning kids' activities, let Plan My Kids take the wheel. Visit their website at planmykids.com and start your plan today. Remember, with Plan My Kids, you got this. And most importantly, your kids know this. Thanks again to Plan My Kids for their support of the podcast. In this episode, I sit down with Derek Pando, the founder of Beeloo. Derek shares his inspiration for creating Beeloo, a marketplace that has tens of thousands of printable activities for kids. The idea was born from Derek's own desire to provide his children with non-screen time activities. Beeloo uses AI and talented designers to create a wide range of printables, from coloring pages to mazes and educational worksheets. Derek emphasizes the importance of balancing screen time with offline activities and discusses the future of children's education in a tech-dominated world. Hey, Derek, how are you doing today? I'm so glad you could join us for the podcast today.
I'm doing great, David. Thanks for the invite. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear about Beeloo. So to just sort of start us off here, can you share a little bit about your personal journey and what sort of made you think of Beeloo?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of it happened when I started working from home, and I've got 4 kids under the age of 8, and they started coming up to me and saying, "Dad, can you print something off for me? Can you print off a coloring page? Can you print off a maze?" And even though they were constantly interrupting me, I was actually excited that they were asking me for something that wasn't screen time, because that's kind of an epic struggle in our home, like a lot of homes. And I thought, hey, this is great. How can I make this easier for parents? And so that's how Beeloo came to be. We are a marketplace of tens of thousands of different printable activities, and we use software and AI and talented designers and creators to give us lots of options, your kids' favorite themes, whether they like mermaids or castles or the ocean or whatever it may be, in enough variety and different levels so that it can keep them engaged and be used frequently.
Oh, that's great. And I hear your struggles there, especially during the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of parents were like pulling their hair out trying to figure out what to do with their kids. When they couldn't go to social activities outside the home. And you've got 4 kids. What are their ages?
Yeah, so I have 8, 5, 3, and 5 months.
Oh wow, you have your hands full.
Yeah, it's been fun, but we're kind of right in the thick of it where at these ages, with especially my 2 oldest and even starting with my 3-year-old, they really enjoy sitting down with some crayons or a marker and a pen and doing different activities. So it's nice because I call them my in-house testers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They'll look over my shoulder and be like, "Oh, is that new, Dad?" I'll be like, "Yep, I'll print it out. Just hang tight, and I'll get your feedback." So being able to share that with them has also been pretty fun, as opposed to previous jobs. I had more of like a corporate software background, and they don't care about productivity software like they care about coloring pages. So
awesome. So for our listeners, can you just kind of give us an overview of the types of printables that you offer?
Yeah. So when we launched, our focus was really on, we want just fun, things that kids enjoy doing. And And so we thought about what was fun and then combine that with what can we make with software. So to start off, we have coloring pages, mazes, color by number grids, where there's a hidden picture where like, they color the boxes, and then it ends up being, a picture of an eagle or, all sorts of different fun things. And we've continued to add to over as we've been working on it. So we also have things that are more for kids that can read, like word scrambles, word searches, crossword puzzles. And we're actually now just about to launch some new, more education-focused activities, including things like handwriting practice and math practice, but that are more fun. So yeah, there's lots of different kinds and themes, and that's what we feel like it takes to keep kids engaged, because what's so attractive about screens is that you have unlimited options and that it's on demand. And so from the options standpoint, we try to replicate that so that they don't get bored, and we can have a maze get harder and harder and harder and harder, so that it's not like one and done. You can use it to engage them for a long time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, when I grew up, when we didn't have screens, I remember all the books that we would use to do activities like that. And, I have 2 kids now, they're teenagers. They had a few of those books growing up, but definitely not as many as I had. And yeah, I think the fact that you can kind of get them on demand and you can kind of customize what your child's interests are, I think is pretty clever. And it does seem like it gives a little bit of that sort of instant feedback, or the fact that you can choose things and sort of and get something kind of on demand.
Yeah. And the other thing we try to focus on is that sometimes kids really get into stuff. And so if they say, you teach a kid how to do basic Sudoku or something like that, and they're like, well, I want to do 30 pages of Sudoku. And with the way we've designed our platform, they can do, as a parent, you could do that. You're like, okay, I'm going to print off, 30 Sudoku pages. I don't have to like wait and buy a book. I don't have to, dig around Google image search. Because kids they just get laser focused, and when they really enjoy something for a period of time, we want to tap into that, especially when it's so positive.
Yeah. And I would imagine even in car rides, like I remember my kids, they had this Where's Waldo book, and they loved that. I think we still have it. It's like they would just sit there and go through, and those they got progressively harder, right? So first at the front of the book they were easy, and then as they got further on, they got harder.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about the age groups that Beeloo's printables are tailored for, and how do you ensure that they sort of cater to the development needs of that age group?
Yeah, we could see kind of 3 to 10 is probably our core users, though I will admit one of the most surprising segments of users that we have is actually in senior living facilities, because a lot of the same activities are used kind of by people that are in later stages of life to maintain like mental sharpness and stuff. But that's a little bit of a tangent, but I had to share it because to me it's just such an interesting use case. Yeah, 3 to 10. I think coloring pages and simple mazes are kind of at the, hey, I'm a 3-year-old, I can hold a crayon, all the way to 10-year-olds where we do more advanced things like crossword puzzles, where they're using their reading and writing skills to do things that are fun, but that also start to have more of a learning outcome. Even like a coloring page for a 3-year-old is a very positive thing, educational outcome focused activity, because they're learning how to hold a pencil and control and staying within the lines and all that. So 3 to 10 I'd say is probably our core segment.
Okay. And you guys have thousands of different printables. So how do you decide on what themes to create?
Yeah, we basically looked at what people are searching for, so we tried to take at least a data-driven approach initially of, for example, the number one kind of coloring pages that search for on Google are unicorns. So we started with unicorns, and then also holidays tend to be a really big time, whether it's at home or in the classroom, that people want to, use these types of printable activities to talk about or discuss or celebrate a holiday. But then as we've learned about how much these are used in the classroom and in other educational settings, we've shifted a little bit. Like, so for example, we're just about to launch Indigenous Peoples Day theme. What our most popular theme this year so far has been Juneteenth, the new federal holiday. And so because our software enables us to make hundreds around one theme, we're now kind of focusing on themes that maybe aren't just like as big as Christmas or Halloween, as well as things that are more educational. We just launched a human body theme, insects. We might do things like Greek mythology, things that can be supplemental to other things that you might be teaching at home in the classroom.
Very cool. Very cool. Now let me ask a question. So some homes have printers, some don't.
Yes.
So if a family doesn't have a printer, can they still get access to your printables?
They can. Yeah, we turn them into like activity books that you can buy on Amazon, and right on Prime, hit the button and it'll be shipped to your house. We've explored other ways of doing it. And we also know, because we look at our web analytics, that a lot of parents are printing it off at work. Because I'll see, when we look at the analytics of where the traffic's coming from, it'll say, oh, Amazon offices, or or libraries. We see people printing off a lot of time at libraries, and so about 73% of U.S. households have printers. But for those that don't, we try to find other ways to give them access.
Cool. Awesome. And you mentioned this sort of the gratification aspect about different levels of complexity, or as things get harder. And so I can, kind of understand like a maze, like getting slightly harder, or maybe even a word game. But can you give some other examples of some of the printables that have this sort of transition from easy to hard?
Yeah. I mean, with all types of activities that we make, we want to ladder up the complexity and the difficulty. So even a coloring page, right? So for Halloween's coming up, just a simple pumpkin is different from a coloring page that says Happy Halloween. It has lots of different images on it. So that's one way with like coloring pages. And then like Sudoku, by the number of variables, and you can make it more complex. And so we can crank it up. But even like crossword puzzles, we have picture crosswords, which it's like, okay, that's a tree. And they don't even need to really be able to read completely yet, but then they can still do it. Whereas we have crossword puzzles that, a high schooler, might enjoy or be able to do. So we really try to target, as we think about the ones that we can create, because we think that's where we're adding value, of where we can naturally up level, or scale up the complexity.
Very cool. Now, I don't know, in 2023, if you're not having a conversation and it doesn't involve AI, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. But for those parents who missed it, you mentioned that. So you have all these different activities. How are you using technology, right, to help create these products that you have?
Yeah. So we had launched the company last summer, right before, I'd say, the AI boom came out. And so as soon as ChatGPT came out and everyone started talking about it, we started experimenting on what it could do. Now, core to our mission is to help parents and teachers spend less time on screens. And so that may seem funny that you're like, oh, are you going to lean into AI? But what we found is that we can use technology to help parents spend less time on technology. I'll give you an example. The crossword puzzles that we build, we use AI to help us generate those at scale. So we look at, let's say we want to make an ocean theme. It could be, if I wanted to come up with 50 words that are ocean themed and 20 clues per word, that is an extremely manual process. But we've built into, publicly available AI tools, and then built software on top of it that does all the manual labor that then we can review by hand. But what it's enabled us to do is just create hundreds and thousands in a much faster way. Another way that we use it is for imagery. So for color by number, we use AI generators to create simple images that we then turn into hidden pictures. Now, on the imagery side of things, it's kind of hit or miss. There's kind of narrow use cases that we found that AI can be useful for. But we still also have designers and artists that we use. But yeah, we found that AI is very helpful in enabling us to build in a lot of variety and scale, and also the difficulty level, because we can say, hey, for the crossword puzzle, give us 5 easy clues that an elementary school kid can understand. Give us 5 for middle school, and give us 10 that are really hard. And then as we plug that into our software, enables us to say, all right, let's create 20 different easy crossword puzzles that are all completely unique, and 20 different hard crossword puzzles. And the amount of time it would have taken someone to do that manually, a year and a half ago, would be just a huge barrier. And that's what enables us to do this very inexpensively and offer a lot of it for free on our website, because we're able to, keep our costs down by leveraging AI to build a lot of this.
That's really cool. And I can imagine as the technology continues to improve and get faster, like you can really one-to-one personalization, right? For kids, right? It's like, hey, I'm a kid. You mentioned ocean. I like the ocean. I like, dogs. I like, whatever, versus someone else who, wants, trucks or Lego or whatever. Like you can completely personalize it almost to each individual. Right?
No, absolutely. And we have started to engage with that. Like we have a natural language prompt on our website where you can say, hey, I have a 10-year-old who loves mermaids. Can you put together a 30-page packet? And it'll generate that. Now, we don't generate things on the fly because we have a QA process to make sure that the quality is high. But it pulls from our database of tens of thousands and matches it without a parent having to spend all this time being like, okay, I need 3 puzzles and I need 3 this, and you can, let the AI do all the work for you of packaging it together with the parameters that you've outlined.
Gotcha. So you mentioned this quality control. So you've got some real people who are checking the outputs from these systems. What does that process look like? How do you determine good quality versus bad quality?
Well, to start off, we've used actually technology to do the first pass.
Okay.
And that's what's interesting about a lot of these generative AI tools that are now available to anyone. It's oftentimes not what is the output from that, but it's like, what do you build on top of it, and how do you instruct it in a way that creates the highest possible quality? So first off, we built software on top of the APIs that does a pass that has checks and balances to make sure the quality is high. And then from there, we try to have someone who is has some expertise in that topic to manually review it. So for example, we're working on the Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's of course an area where we want to make sure we really get it right. And so we are having Indigenous people with expertise review once the automated reviews have happened. They look at the clues, and then we produce sample maybe a couple hundred of the output, and they review it one by one to make sure that the building blocks are in place. And sometimes it's just things like, oh, this image needs to be re-rendered, or no, the AI tool told me that Celia Cruz was Puerto Rican, and as a Cuban American, I'm like, she is not Puerto Rican. She's Cuban. Right. But it's a trade-off, because we're able to use this to scale, but also we want things that are accurate. So we're doing our best to try to find the sweet spot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little nuances there. So it's good that you have that check in there. Parents can be confident that they're getting good information. Yeah. So what kind of feedback are you getting from parents that have used your resources?
Yeah, I'd say the most consistent feedback is they want more educational resources. I thought at first it's like, no, this is about fun. This is just about, instead of turning on Netflix while you make dinner to keep them occupied, you give them these. But parents and teachers have been saying, no, we need more educational resources. And when you think of the Venn diagram of what parents want and what teachers want, especially at this age, there's massive overlap in the middle. Because for a kid to do a math worksheet where they got to solve 10 problems, but the problem is an answer to a funny joke, that's going to feel like fun to them, because learning is fun. And so that's where we're focused right now, is on more explicitly educational outcome focused worksheets and activities, which we're really excited about, and we've gotten great feedback on.
That's awesome. And I have to imagine that even for, families that are homeschooling, like this has got to be a big need for them as well.
Yeah, we believe so. And then also, there's I think part of the inspiration came during the summer, where they, educators refer to what's called the summer slump, especially in the US, where we have such long summers, where there's been some studies that show that, students kind of can move backwards a little bit in the summer. And so a lot of really kind of engaged parents that are able to and have the resources, they supplement, and that could be with camps, that could be with, different activities. Like I know we've printed off worksheets and got workbooks that for our kids to do during the summer to kind of keep some of those skills sharp. So for us, that also, we see that as a way to, help parents easily tackle that. So if they say, hey, today we're going to work on, double digit addition, they can go on our site and they can say, oh, well, like you love oceans and Halloween. And so I'm going to do themed to something that you like. And here's 5 worksheets for you to do, on a Tuesday morning before you go out and play, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So if there's a lot of people that have, they're scared of AI, like they're worried about it. So for parents that may be skeptical about, using worksheets generated by AI, what would you tell them?
Well, my overall philosophy with technology is sometimes we look at, when it comes to our kids, we look at technology as this wave that's just going to hit us, and we just got to get in the fetal position and hold on tight. And my personal philosophy as a parent is we got to look to where technology works for us. And that's where we got to invest. Now, a great example of this is, the Brickit app. Are you familiar with the Brickit app with
I'm
Legos?
Not.
Yeah. So
yes, that'll determine what kind of bricks that you have. Identify the bricks.
Yes.
Yeah. My kids have used that. They love it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, my son, he'd kind of lost interest in Legos for a period of time. And I learned about the Brickit app. And so I showed it to him, and it just reignited his passion and creativity. And you know what? We've now kind of weaned off the Brickit app. He doesn't use it as much, but he's playing with Legos just as much. And so for me, that is like an example of, here we are using technology to get the outcomes we want as parents. The tail's not wagging the dog. And so when it comes to worksheets, like the AI enables us to create more options, give it more inexpensively to parents. And also, I'd say 99% of people are never even going to realize that what they're doing has been in part created by AI, because it's good and we've had, quality controls. I think there are other areas where you want to be very careful with AI, like especially, we're focused on offline things that you print, but I think in any scenario where a parent is going to be having a child interact directly with something that is AI powered, I share that concern. But in an offline scenario, I think the risks are completely different and very, 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 very low, and are not outweighed by the positive benefits of having your kids highly engaged on something that's not a screen.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of touched on this in that last response, but as far as the future of children's education and entertainment that's dominated today by screens, how do you see that balance play out? Do you think there's a world where people live on their screens and offline? I'm sure you do, or you wouldn't be in this business, right?
Yeah, I think this is where, I may disagree with other people that I respect in the education technology space. If you look at the conventional scientific research that's been done on the amount of time that kids should be spending on screen, I think under the age of 10, it's still like only a couple hours a day. And if you look at what kids are getting at home and then now what they're getting at school, we are blowing past that. And sometimes we're blowing past that just at school. And I might be a little bit old school in this regard, but I I'm a technologist. I care a lot about this, but it's got to work for us. And I think that it's very intentional, targeted and age appropriate amounts of time behind the screens. And, as a parent, you gotta be, you gotta be on top of it. Cause my second grader, he walked into school, the first day they gave him a Chromebook, and I go, what on earth is happening? And as I tried to get some details about what he could or couldn't do on this machine, I didn't get the answer that satisfied me. So I had to sit down and start trying to hack this thing to kind of see what was it capable of. So I knew how to prepare my son. So I definitely am not looking forward to a world where kids are in VR headsets 8 hours a day. I think that's going to be bad for us. I think it's bad for society. It's bad for their vision. It's probably bad for their health. But using it in ways that augment the outcomes that we want, I'm all for it. And technology is not a wave that hits us. It's here to work for us as parents, and we got to take back control and make sure that it's doing what we want it to do.
That sounds great. I love that. So before we get into our closing thoughts, I have a pop question for you.
Okay.
So if you could wish one superpower that parents could have, what would that superpower be?
Ooh. I think the superpower I wish all parents had was knowing exactly when and where to light the spark for things that are going to be great for your kids. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I when I was in high school, my dad came to me and said, Hey, we just moved into a new neighborhood. He's like, why don't you go knock on doors, see if you can mow the neighbors' lawns to start a little business? And I was like, oh, that was a great idea, Dad. I did that. Fast forward, I had a business that helped pay for college, that's inspired my career. And all my dad did was really light the spark. He said we could use the family equipment, and we were off in that direction. And had a similar experience with my son, where he was getting really into a specific video game that I'm not as excited about personally as a father. My kids play video games, but of course we have it kind of regulated. And I thought, gosh, what else can I get him excited about? So over the beginning of the summer, I was like, hey, do you want to read Harry Potter? And he goes, no, I don't think so. I'm like, well, I'm just going to read some pages to you at night. Well, let me tell you, at the end of the summer, he's read four books. We've watched the movies. He's all in. His room's now decorated as Harry Potter. And the timing was right and the activity was right to light that spark. Now, I know there's thousands of sparks that you could light. And so I think as a parent, I'd admonish people to look for them, think about them. But man, if I could just know what all the sparks with the talents and potential that my kids have were, and I could light them, that would be incredible.
That's awesome, man. Yes, I love that. Captain Spark. Yeah, I remember the Harry Potter wave when the books were actually coming out, and I had neighbors who, were tweens, and them waiting in line all night for the next book to come out, and then they would finish the book the following night. So it was like two all-nighters basically. One all-nighter waiting for the book to be sold, and the second all-nighter reading the book cover to cover.
Yeah, it's an incredible series, and we've really enjoyed having that be more of our discussion versus the video game, which my wife and I had more trouble relating to. Versus Harry Potter, it was easier for us to kind of embrace and encourage that. So
great. So lastly, are there any other bits of advice you'd like to leave with our listeners, especially those who are looking for ways to engage with their kids?
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd say, first off, being a parent is always challenging and nothing works for everybody. So any advice I give, I'll give with that caveat. But I had a really positive experience over the summer where I said, hey, I realized that my son didn't know how to play basketball. And I think it's just such a great community sport. I like to play basketball, but I'm not like a crazy sports person. So I started what I call dad camp, which is a couple days a week. In the morning, we'd go play basketball in the driveway, and I got some neighborhood kids involved, and it turned it into a really positive thing. But to me, it was like a reminder of, as a parent, you don't have time to be intentional about everything. Sometimes you're just dealing with the chaos in front of you. But that was something that I decided I want to be intentional with. I invested in it, and the outcome I was really happy with. So my ending reminder would be for parents that, listen to you and are clearly intentional. No one listening to this podcast is probably not, an intentional parent. Like, pick something you really want to go for and knock it out of the park. And I think you'll have outsized results for you and your children. And that would be my kind of closing thought.
Great. And how can our listeners stay updated with Beeloo and their latest developments?
Go to our website. You can use Beeloo for free. Create an account, and so we'll email you and keep you up to date. We add hundreds of different kinds of printables and worksheets every week. Just Beeloo.com.
That's great. Hey, Derek, this has been great to learn about your company and what you're doing for kids to have fun off of a screen. And overall, this has just been really inspirational about, sort of being a parent and being engaged with your kids. And I really appreciate you sharing your time with us today.
No, thank you. And thank you for what you do and helping parents out there. It's a tough job, so we need as many resources as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek.
And that wraps up our engaging conversation with Derek Pando, founder of Beeloo. Today, we discussed the importance of balancing screen time with offline activities for children and learned about the innovative solutions Beeloo offers to parents looking for engaging printables. A huge thank you to Derek for joining us today and sharing his insights and passions for children's education. It's always a pleasure to have thought leaders like him on our show. If you found this episode valuable, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and follow. We have many more insightful discussions lined up for all the dedicated parents out there. So thanks for sharing a moment with us. We look forward to the next one. Until then, go and be the best parent you can be. We're rooting for you.